From our studios here in Kokomlimle, I welcome you to News Desk. I am Bernice Abu Beidulansa. In this package, Joy News learns it will cost an additional $200 million to make Saglemi Housing Project habitable. And Colleges of Education Teachers Association and Physician Assistants Association of Ghana still on strike despite meeting with the National Labour Commission. We'll hear from the parties involved. And the Ghana Union of Traders Association unhappy with new port charges. We've got details of these and more, plus business news. Please stay with us. Thank you so much for your company here on News Desk. We are live on DSTV channel 421 and on your digital television, also online on myjoyonline.com. Details now. The Public Procurement Authority has given approval for a transaction advisor to be gotten to lead the process of identifying a suitable private sector entity with the requisite technical and financial capability to help dispose the Saglemi Housing Project, which cost the state $200 million. Now, this follows Cabinet's directive to the Minister of Works and Housing. It is to be disposed of at the current value to a private sector entity to complete for onward sale to the public at no further cost to government. But Joy News is learning the new cost at almost $200 million after some assessment was done. Sector Minister Francis Asenso Boakye tells us more.
Thorough feasibility studies were done. In fact, it was a requirement before Finance Ministry will commit funds to. And after the feasibility studies, it went before a panel of experts who sat on it and approved it before the Ministry of Finance committed funds to it. Of course, I did mention the use of local materials. That's one of the strategies we want to adopt to address the housing deficit, housing issues in the country. Because one of the reasons why it costs so much is because all our building materials, raw materials, are imported. And it's become even difficult lately because of the current global crisis.
So what kind of indigenous raw materials are we talking about?
I'm talking about, for now, the burnt bricks, clay, which we have huge deposits in many parts of the country, in the Ashanti region, in the Central region, in the Bonafo region. But unfortunately, they are still expensive.
Right.
Okay. It's because the industry is not developed. We want to use this project as a catalyst for people to realize that, hey, this burnt bricks can be used. People develop interest in it, develop the taste for it. Because many people don't want to use the burnt bricks. If you're able to create demand for it, it will also create supply for it, and you can have mass production, and you can enjoy economies of scale. And in that case, the prices of these raw materials, burnt bricks, will come down. Then we develop the raw material, the local building materials industry, so that the average cost will come down, and it will help in our local housing industry.
State Housing Corporation is one of the contractors or one of the developers that have taken advantage of this and is working on. Apart from the state housing, we understand that the others are from the private sector.
Yeah, they are all from the private. State housing pretty much is a private sector. It's owned by the state, all right, but it's in the market to make profit. Yeah. And
the 60% that you are targeting, that you want to address their housing needs. Now let's look at the cost. Studio around 20,000.
One bedroom 20,000.
20,000. Two bedroom 30-something thousand.
34,000.
And then three bedroom. So what is the financing arrangement? Is it a case that's going to be a one-off payment, or they'll have to pay it within a certain period of time?
Okay. So the Ministry of Finance has a program called Home Ownership Fund. That one is a blended financing arrangement between the government and some selected banks. That government subsidizes the banks to provide mortgage arrangement. mortgage facilities to workers or any person who has a dedicated source of income. Okay, that fund is going to help finance 10% of these housing units.
Okay.
Originally, the idea was to do more, but we are aware of our current financial situation. So government is not going to be able to provide a lot more subsidies as we had envisaged. But for now, 10%. We have worked with the unions, many of them have decided to provide offtake for these housing units for their members, teachers, nurses, Guta Traders Union.
Okay.
Yesterday.
So it's not only for the public sector?
No, not only for the public sector. Yesterday, Guta came there with a bus load of its members, very excited and ready to offtake. Okay, and the developers and the banks also have their own arrangement for certain payment arrangement, so that as many people as possible can access this.
So in this case, how do you protect those who are really deserving of it, such that it doesn't go into the situation where somebody probably may have so much resources?
No. It's very important, and it's one of the things that we have put in place mechanism to avoid, because you don't want a situation where rich people like Elton John go and buy 5 states. Yeah, but you put in mechanism. First of all, you have an income based eligibility criteria, so that if you earn a certain amount, you'll be disqualified. Secondly, you have a no resale policy. Once you buy it, you cannot sell.
And if you want to, you sell it back to the developer.
Well, you cannot, because the idea is that you want to avoid a situation where someone will just come and buy 10 and resell it to. So once you buy it, you cannot sell.
Okay.
Third, nobody will be allowed to buy more than one.
Okay.
Yeah. So it happened in many countries. When I went to South Africa, and this one was not just affordable housing; it was actually free housing for people who were living in slum areas. The government there had provided, some basic housing units for them. Yet people wanted to sell them. Okay. So they had put in place this mechanism to make sure that you cannot resell and all that. So we learn from what is happening, best practices happening in other parts of the world, and we are replicating that.
And that was the interaction between my colleague Elton Brobe and the Minister for Housing. To some other stories now, physician assistants are still on strike. They are asking for changes to be made to the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act 857. They want freedom to operate independently. We also know that CTAC has been on strike for some time. Yesterday, we were told by the Executive Secretary for NLC that there was supposed to be a meeting, and we will be getting details on that. But let's first speak to the National President of CTAC, Mr. Obinghima, and also Mr. Ofosu Asamoah, who heads the National Labour Commission. Good morning to you, Mr. Ofosu Asamoah. So first off, let's start on that meeting that was supposed to happen between the NLC and the physician assistants yesterday. Did it happen? What were the conclusions?
Yes, it did. And let me correct it that the physician assistants are not on strike. The strike has been called off. So currently they are put.
Right. Thanks for the update. And you heard it here first on the Joy News channel. So tell us what agreements were arrived at, or what conclusions were arrived at, for which reason the physician assistants decided to, back down on their strike.
Yes, they appeared before the commission, and after preliminary hearing, they have decided to go and sit and consult on their areas of disagreement and report to the commission in a month's time, on the 16th of next month. So they've been given 1 month to go and consult, try to iron the difference and report to the commission.
Right. And this meeting was supposed to be between the NLC, the physician assistants, and the Medical and Dental Council, or the Ministry of Health. Were the other parties present?
Yes, the Medical and Dental Council were here. You know, the Ministry of Health is a mother ministry, and it has several agencies under it, with each of them having an area, a defined area of operation. And this falls within the Medical and Dental Council, so they were here to deal with the matter. So there was not much need of the Ministry of Health because the manpower were going to be here, not doing anything in the office, just to come and see it. So it's been dealt with by the party, that's the Medical and Dental Council, and the physicians. If it escalates, then the ministry will come in.
Right. And I know that the physician assistants have been very forceful with their demands and very vocal about it. I'm just wondering the manner this meeting took. Was it quite an aggressive meeting? How exactly did the physician assistants...
You see, the aggression is just a hype in the media. I mean, when issues come up, they are settled by human beings through negotiations and through give and take. As you sit at the table, you don't fight to settle issues. So the hype and the supposed tension are just one of the media in the public. But it was a cool meeting.
Right. So after a month, are they supposed to present a single document of what the two parties have agreed, or you need to have a meeting again to discuss the decisions that the two parties have arrived at?
Yes, they will present to us whatever they have arrived at, and then the commission will look at it and either adopt it as its ruling, or if there is a need to go further.
About the CTAC situation, and yesterday I spoke to you about it, and you said that everything had been done. What all that CTAC had to do was to escalate the issue in the court on their own. I just want to know if you have had any interaction with CTAC since we spoke yesterday.
You see, we invited CTAC to appear before the commission yesterday because they had made an earlier complaint that the government side has not honored its part of the award that was given them by the National Labour Commission. So we wrote a number of letters to the government side on the 11th of July, on the 12th of July, and on the 31st of July, since their strike was scheduled to start on the 1st of August. So having not received response to our earlier two letters of 11th and 12th, we have to follow up again on the 31st, which was virtually the last day. Fortunately, on the 31st, they responded, though very late, with an attachment from the Ministry of Finance, where they have been given the warrant to pay off all that is due the CTAC on the 17th of July. This came at a time when computation of salary for the month of July had been done already. So they did not pay them in July as earlier on again, so that they don't go on the strike on the 1st of August. And that the only time that they could pay was to add to the August salary. So it was one of the pleas, so very belatedly, to the CTAC that yes, we were supposed to pay you or do our part, we haven't done it. And these are our reasons we did not get the warrant to pay you early enough. Unfortunately, it came so late that CTAC had called the strike already. So the commission invited them for yesterday, and I said the letter went late as well, so they wrote to us that they were unable to attend, and further contended that they thought that there weren't any issues for discussion or settlement, and that all that was needed at the time was for the government to comply with the award that was given them. So they thought that we for a commission to impress upon the government to perform. And I think that is exactly what we were doing by writing those 3 letters and summoning them before the commission. And they came before the commission and brought evidence to show that steps were being taken to make good the award. So the commission has directed the CTAC to come before it on Wednesday coming, because it is not for them to determine whether there are issues at stake or not. This is an invitation, a directive from the commission that appears. So it is the commission that will determine which issues are there to settle. So that is where we stand now. So yesterday it's been adjourned to Wednesday for CITAG and the ministry to appear.
Wednesday next week.
That is so.
Right. I appreciate your time here. That's Executive Secretary of the NLC, Mr. Ofosu, and they're sharing details with us. And just for purposes of clarity, CITAG is still on strike, but the physician assistants called off their strike after that meeting with the NLC and the Medical and Dental Council. Sorry for the earlier mishap there. But let's do some other stories now. The devastating imprint of illegal mining on farmlands is taking a toll on Ghana's agric sector, food security and biodiversity. It's been estimated the country may in the coming years struggle to feed indigents if measures are not instituted to fight this. Fortunately, 50 acres of land in 6 districts within Obuasi and the Adansi areas degraded by illegal mining are being reclaimed through an oil palm plantation. Emmanuel Bright-Kweku has more in the following report.
Several open shallow pits dotted across an abandoned illegal mining site at Adase on the outskirts of the Obuasi municipality. Like other communities and agricultural plantations ravaged by artisanal mining, the impact of the illegal activities are glaring. Director of Agric for Obuasi East, Yao Osei, says the illegal miners have overtaken lowlands purposed for horticultural produce, threatening food security in the district.
Most of the lowland areas which were used to cultivate vegetables and rice have been taken over by these galamseyers, these activities of galamseyers. And if care is not taken, it will go a long way to affect the food production in the district, which will also go a long way to affect the food security situation in the country in general.
Formation of sinkholes, contamination of soil, and loss of biodiversity are a few of the deleterious impacts of illegal mining on farmlands. There have been urgent calls on the government to find pragmatic solutions to the menace. In its bid to salvage the worsening situation, AngloGold Ashanti Obuasi Mine, through its 10-year socio-economic development plan, is converting about 50-acre degraded lands in the Obuasi municipality and 5 adjoining districts into agroforestry block farms. Launched 2 years ago, the climate resilient oil palm project is expected to contribute to Ghana's deforestation mitigation targets by the end of 2026. Daniel Artabentum is Sustainability Superintendent at AGA Obuasi Mine.
As part of our socio-economic development plan, 10-year plan, agric intervention is one of the key areas that we are looking at. So if you look at the plan, we've made several support towards agriculture. One of the key or highlight areas is the climate resilient oil palm project, which is affecting about 6 districts within the Adansi enclave. And this is to try and then see how we're able to use oil palm to reclaim lots of the land that have been degraded or that has been used for mining purposes. The study with Solidarity that shows that the Adansi enclave is climate vulnerable.
Nearly 30,000 oil palm seedlings of 2 variants are being distributed to over 2,500 farmers in the Obuasi Municipal, Obuasi East, Adansi North, Adansi South, Adansi Asokwa, and Adansi Akrofom districts.
So right here in the seedling yard, we have about 2 varieties. That is the palm millet and then also the one we got from Ghana, Sumatra. Each of these seedlings have their strengths, and we would want to sort of put it across the Adansi enclave and learn from it. One is good and resistant to drought. The other also comes in abundance when it's seasonal. And these are the balances that we want the farmers to have, such that in their farm you see different varieties and withstanding different conditions that we face within the Adansi enclave.
The project will not only help restore these lands and reduce climate change impact caused by illegal mining, but also expand livelihood opportunities to beneficiary communities. Nana Apiakubi has been farming for over 3 decades now. He is positive the project will be another source of income to support his family and attract the youth to agriculture.
It's going to support me a whole lot, because when it started producing, even if I'm weak, if I can't go, the factory XF will come and buy it for me to get money. So it will help me a lot.
So for how long have you been doing this farming?
Produce from the farms are expected to feed oil mills in your Boakye enclave.
When you come to Obuasi East District, there are a lot of oil palm industries, processing industries in the district. So they thought it wise that going into this oil palm production will go a long way to help the farmers and also the industries, so that they can be in business.
For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
This is News Desk. The Ghana Union of Traders Association is asking the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority to suspend the implementation of new port tariffs and engage stakeholders. Now, the association says these charges would further compound the high cost of doing business. Guta says the announcement comes as a surprise to its members, who continue to suffer the effects of many taxes and levies that have been introduced in recent times. This morning, Guta President Dr. Joseph Obeng joins me for some further analysis and discussion on this. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Obeng. So, I find it quite interesting that you say that this happened on your blind side. You were not aware at all that these new import charges were going to be introduced?
Yeah, that's surprising, because we are having engagement with the Ghana Port Authority, and it is not conclusive. We haven't built any consensus. And then they brought this on the blind side of the stakeholders. It doesn't show respect to us. Right. And we are not going to allow this. Because especially coming the way that we allow them to make increase only barely a year now. So they cannot continue to increase the tariffs. Especially at this time that we are all complaining that cost of doing business in this country is extremely high, and that is collapsing businesses. Even it's not good even for the port authorities themselves, because barely 4 months ago they called us and complained that the port is not having the needed traffic that it used to be. And that we should find a solution to it. And we said that the problem has been the cost of doing business at that port. If that is not taking, most of us are going to do our business through the lobby port, because the cost here is too much. And then when that happens, is it going to help the country? It's not going to help us.
Doc.
And so they should be careful and mindful of the charges that they keep. And when this happens, you know what also follows? Then the shipping lines is also influenced to also increase their charges. And it compounds the problem for us all the time.
Doc, so if I get you were not entirely surprised about the introduction of new port charges, but you were aware because you were having a meeting. Your concern is the fact that that meeting was not concluded, and then the GPHA went ahead to implement these. But what justification did the Ports and Harbours Authority give for this new increment?
And they were using the exchange rates and all that. Even now, if that is so the reason, the exchange rate is stabilized for now. So what else do they have to say? And they were talking about utilities and all that. But you see, one thing that even worries us the most is the fact that during the last increment, they introduced a new port charges. That's the Port Infrastructure Development Fund. And that one, it was a new charge. And then they tried to convince us that they have to renovate all the roads in Tema, and that they have become unmotorable. And it's true. And so we allow that. But since a year now, go to Tema Port and see the roads, especially from the Vacuum roundabout to the Tema itself. It's so much trouble, and we don't know how the fund is being used. And it's very unfortunate, and we demand even accountability of that. Before even we can
Did this come up during the meeting? Did this come up during the meeting, the issue of the levies that were taken for maintaining the roads and the fact that that hasn't happened? Did you raise those concerns during the meeting? What response did you get?
We demanded some sort of accountability, and that we want to see the progress of these roads. And then we've seen nothing. And especially when we've paid almost a year. At least that stretch, that last stretch from that roundabout to port, we should have seen some work in progress. And if that happens, it means that we are just being taken for granted and being the mother cow that they are just milking us. It is not fair. Businesses cannot contain these extortive charges any longer. And we are not going to allow that until we have been able to build some consensus. And if we have to accept it, then we see the appropriate time to bring. For now, businesses are overburdened with these taxes and high costs of doing business. It's unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable.
You say that this will likely translate into the shipping lines also increasing their costs. What about the consumer? For those of us who purchase items from business people like you who have to import them into the country, what happens to the cost of products?
That's the most unfortunate trend, because we keep on piling these costs on these customers. And that when that happens and the prices are high, it goes back to destroy our businesses, because it means that the consumers are unable to purchase the volumes that they used to buy, and then it destroys our turnover. Business thrives on turnover. And so when goods and services are high in the market, most people think it goes in our favor. No, it doesn't go in our favor. It rather curtails the turnover, and that we are unable to service our debts and all that at the bank. So it is not in our interest that prices go up, and that we keep on piling some of these costs on the consuming public. It is not fair. They also need to have a respite. You understand?
So now that the GPHA has gone ahead to implement these new port tariffs, as you suggest, even before a meeting could end conclusively between all the parties, beyond this call, what are you, or how are you hoping to engage with the port authorities to listen to your side of the story as well?
Yeah, I've called the CEO. And then we are also sending a letter, official letter to them, calling them to stop the implementation. And I believe that they will heed to that, because they have good rapport with the stakeholders. And that's why we say we are surprised that they should go behind us and then implement this extra levies or tariffs on us.
Thank you for making time to speak to us this morning. That's Dr. Joseph Obeng. He's GUTA president. And this morning we've been speaking to him on the new import charges that have been introduced by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. He talks about the impact of this on the cost of doing business and even the cost of the items that will eventually be on the market. Moving on to some other stories now, and the emergence of COVID-19 saw the introduction of several orthodox remedies to suppress the activities of the virus in the human system. But to find a safe and efficient treatment for the disease, research institutes in 13 African countries, including Ghana, joined forces to embark on an AntiCovid clinical trial almost 2 years after the global health researchers at the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research in Tropical Medicine, KCCR, have concluded studies in Ghana, which contributed the highest recruits for the study on the continent. More details in the following report.
The AntiCovid is an open-label randomized comparative adaptive platform trial that tests the efficacy and safety of treatments in 2,000 to 3,000 mild to moderate COVID-19 patients in 13 African countries, including Ghana. The study identified early treatments that can prevent the progression of COVID-19 to severe disease with potentials of limiting transmission. Dr. John Amwesi is the leader for the Global Health and Infectious Diseases Research Group at KCCR.
In our country, in many parts of Africa, the majority of COVID cases were mild to moderate. So it was very important to find treatments that would prevent these people from progressing to severe COVID. So this is a study that was run in a couple of African countries, including Ghana. And Ghana was one of the main countries where this study was conducted. Study is over, and we've begun the analysis of the findings. It's yet to come out.
In Ghana, the clinical study was largely conducted at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. Emergency medicine specialist and the research lead at CAF, Dr. Joseph Boni, indicated that a total of 214 were recruited for master study, the highest on the continent. The clinical research investigated the factors affecting the transmission and impact of COVID-19 treatment on the type, strength, and duration of antibody and cellular immune response in sub-Saharan Africa. The analysis of the results are currently underway to establish the effectiveness of the various treatments.
Well, the good thing about this kind of study is that it tells you what works and what doesn't work. So through this study, we were able to contribute information to know what doesn't work. Already you know that chloroquine was dropped. And studies like this contributed to the knowledge that chloroquine is not necessary or does not really work. There are several other treatments that came through which we realized did not really work, and others that happened to contribute a bit. But I must point out that the actual findings of this trial are yet to be released. It's still under analysis, and it's not only Ghana, but the information that was collected across all the countries where this was done. So in the next couple of months, we hope that we should be able to announce the findings from this trial.
Multiple training sessions related to establishing clinical trial, including site initiation, amendment visit, review training, and protocol training were conducted. Medical Director at CAF, Dr. Kojo Sabing, noted the exercise builds the capacity of medical staff at a hospital.
It's also advantageous when we have these interventional studies because it helps to build capacity of staff, because anybody who takes part in the study has to be trained. Any research assistant, any doctor, any nurse who is part of the study, you go through training. So it's something that you gain being part of the research team.
The research group, after the clinical studies, also donated 2 ventilators valued at $15,000 and other medical consumables to the hospital.
So the emergency unit is really an area where we need to have a lot of ventilators, because, people who come in and have breathing difficulties, before they are stabilized, are supposed to be on these ventilators. That is why a donation to the emergency unit is really in order.
Now, illegal mining activities have rendered many water bodies in Ghana unsuitable for domestic and industrial activities. The affected communities that are mostly rural are unable to afford water filters. Fortunately, mechanical engineering students of the Sunyani Technical University have come up with a pedal-powered water filter to solve this problem. Love FM's Kwesi Deborah traveled to Sunyani to meet the developers, Leah Nueva Onchaga and Linda Tua, for Tech Thursday.
The machine comprises a filter attached to a bicycle mounted on a metal platform. As the bicycle is pedaled, the movement of the wheel draws water into the filter. The filtered water is then collected in a container.
Right there we have a reverse osmosis machine. It has been purposely created for rural areas where we cannot have access to clean water. So what the machine does is it purifies the water from particles. So you can use this machine, who is powered by manpower. So you can just place it at your borehole or your riverside and you pedal it. After this stage, you get clean water. What the semi-permeable element will do is it will remove all the particles from the water. So you can you can maintain this semi-permeable element by opening it, you clean it. Maybe after 1 month you can clean it and you fix it back onto the machine.
As a bonus, the machine can be your go-to fitness training equipment. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Now, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has indicated that Ghana's fish stock has witnessed an improvement following the introduction of the close season. The USAID's Ghana Mission Director, Kimberly Rosen, says a biological assessment conducted showed that harvest improved after the 2022 close season. She was speaking at a ceremony in Adena to officially announce the end of the 2023 close season.
It's the last day of the 1-month-long closed season for canoe and inshore fishers in Ghana. The closed season directive was introduced by the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development and Fisheries Commission in partnership with the United States Agency for International Development to conserve the country's marine environment. Fisher folks here in Adena are preparing their fishing gears in anticipation of the beginning of the new season. While some paint their boats, others are fixing nets, among other activities. Isaac and his colleagues are hoping to have bumper harvest after the closed season as experienced in the previous years. As the fisher folks prepare to go back to sea, stakeholders have warned against engaging in illegal fishing activities in their expedition. The Deputy Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Moses Enim, made this known at a ceremony in Adena to announce the end of this year's closed season for canoe and inshore fishers.
I take this opportunity to entreat fishers to desist from all forms of illegal fishing activities so that together we shall reap the gains from the implementation of the closed season. In the light of the above, Toby Chairman, the Ministry, in collaboration with the enforcement agencies like the Ghana Navy and the Ghana Marine Police, would intensify monitoring and surveillance activities on our marine waters. The implementation of the Ministerial Directive on Drug Gear Selectivity will be continued to help reduce the catch of juvenile fish and address the issue of excessive bycatch and dumping.
The Ghana Mission Director of the United States Agency for International Development, Ms. Kimberly Rosen, acknowledged the difficulty fisher folks go through during the closed season, but stressed its benefit to conserving the marine environment.
Given the number of communities that rely on the sea for livelihoods, this annual sacrifice is really an annual investment. We conducted an assessment conducted after the 2022 closed season. We found that both the number of fish being caught and the average size of these fish increased the month after the closed season. So I think these findings confirm that the closed season is indeed improving fish stocks.
The closed season spans between 1st July and 31st July for canoe and inshore fishers, while that of industrial trawlers spans from July 1st to August 31st every year. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Adena.
This is News Desk with me, Bernice Abubedulansa. Up next, we've got Business News. Daryl Kwao has the details.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is asking state-owned institutions to complement the effort of government in ensuring macroeconomic stability. According to him, government is determined in ensuring a robust economy amidst the current economic downturn. Hence, institutions should not relent in their efforts to support the government. He was speaking at the 70th anniversary launch of GCB Bank PLC.
Finance Minister at the anniversary launch reiterated government's commitment in supporting banks to bounce back. He, however, commended the efforts of GCB Bank PLC in contributing to the national development agenda.
I reaffirm our government's commitment to creating an enabling environment for the financial sector to thrive. We'll continue to implement policies that foster economic growth, financial stability, and inclusivity. It has been a challenging year, and I described it in the media review as a period in which we all have been bruised, we have been battered, and we have been broken. However, we stood firm, resolute, and resilient. And this is what GCB should continue to be. So clearly, it has been a very challenging year. What matters most, however, is that our respective institutions, and we as government and GCB, were not deterred by our circumstances.
Managing Director for GCB Bank PLC, Kofi Adumaku, maintained that the bank will continue to improve on net customer experience.
We have also strategically increased our investment in the retail business in tandem with the growth in disposable incomes of individuals. Through our innovative digital channels, we successfully cater for our discerning retail customers and will continue to do so. So, for the second time today, I welcome you all to our 70th anniversary and back to the promised bank.
The anniversary is under the theme 70 years of providing unraveled financial solutions towards the socioeconomic development of Ghana.
Also in the news this morning, players within the real estate sector are optimistic the Real Estate Act, as well as a proper regulatory framework, will support the operations of the sector to expand. According to lawyer and engineer Theophilus Jimega, the move will aid in the fight against money laundering within the industry and sanitize operations. He spoke to Joy Business at the official opening of Sudan Land Bank Limited.
The introduction of the Real Estate Act is to streamline the operations of real estate agents and brokers for better organization and accountability. According to engineer Theophilus Jimega, players should desist from activities that will affect the growth of the sector.
The Real Estate Act is a game changer. I see it to be something that will make it that people who use real estate as money laundering conduits will be aware that the law now prohibits something like that. They will be caught. Now, it also makes it that you don't just go to anybody for the person to say, I'm an agency, I sell. No, you need the license before you do that. And when you don't do that, there is a penalty for it. It's up to jail term up to 5 years or a fine. That is it. So that will be a real changer in terms of the real estate agency.
Managing Director of Sudan Land Bank Limited, Agnes Jan Ej, called for more partnerships within the space.
The best investment anybody can do in this world today is to invest in land. So I'm going to talk a bit about land this afternoon. I know you all believe that land ownership over the years has been very challenging and very stressful, with a lot of uncertainties and heartbreaks. And I believe that we at Sudan Land Bank have taken all your concerns into consideration and brought closure to all your concerns regarding security and litigation in acquiring land in Ghana and across Africa.
The company says Land Bank is necessary since land acquisition is a major factor contributing to Ghana's housing challenges.
And that's it for business. The news continues after this break.
And before I take leave of you, former students of the University of Ghana in the UK have launched an alumni fund to support local initiatives in the school. This is as a result of a global campaign by the university to reconnect with former students and deepen their contribution to the school. With the school turning 75 this year, it says it's strategically repositioning itself to receive support from alumni and other stakeholders. There's more in the following report.
weights unanimous being 2 houses, 2 halls. What is the final answer? Commonwealth Board. That's what they said. So the answer is what? One helper. Left side, what's happening? Are you on strike? I know this is everyone in nurses are striking, servants are striking, lawyers are striking, but please let me use.
In fact, we think that the alumni fund is a bigger thing than actually just focusing on one project, because it's a fund that is going to be ongoing and managed properly. It can become quicker than just focusing on one project. So we're hoping that a lot of projects will come out of it, and it's not going to be a one-off thing and a fund that will grow, just like an endowment fund, but obviously this is specifically our bit of supporting the university.
In motion a global campaign to deepen its relationship with former students across the world. And the gesture by the UK alumni community is only a testament of what is to come. Professor Kwesi Dateban is Director of the Office of Institutional Advancement at the school.
This issue of reaching out to our students also, it's in line with celebrating our 75th anniversary, and we think that this is an opportune time for us to reach out to our students and to build up more alumni groups globally.
And that's how we end this edition of News Desk. Really grateful that you can make time to join me. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. There's also news on our Facebook page, Joy News on TV. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram, Joy News on TV. I am Bernice Abubedu Lansa. Please stay with us. We are your most credible news source. Good morning.